Bullets rip through the suffocating desert night, a staccato rhythm of death tearing through the thin metal of the convoy's lead vehicle. The ambush is perfect, a textbook L-shaped kill zone. Green tracers stitch patterns of violence in the darkness, answered by the frantic, panicked muzzle flashes of cornered soldiers. Inside the comms truck, Corporal Rina Yadav feels the vehicle lurch as shrapnel shreds a tire. The radio spits static and screams. Command is gone. The lieutenant is gone. Sergeant Ryder is outside, trying to rally a defense that is dissolving into chaos. She was just the tech, the one they called Sparky, the woman who ran wires and fixed handsets. But now, through the narrow, grime-streaked slit of the truck's viewport, she sees it. A flicker of movement on the ridge. Not just a shooter, but a signalman, coordinating the attack with a coded laser pulse. He is the brain. Cut off the head, and the snake dies. Her rifle, an old but meticulously maintained M4, feels cold and solid in her hands. The rookies, the veterans, even the command staff back at base, they all mocked her quiet intensity, her endless hours at the digital range, her preference for schematics over mess hall chatter. They saw a support drone, a glorified mechanic. They never saw the warrior forged in the fire that took her family years ago. Now, with her unit being slaughtered, one overlooked soldier scopes the enemy's lead strategist. Will she take the shot that saves them all? Where are you watching from tonight? India, the USA, the UK, Australia? Drop your location in the comments below. Let us know where the spirit of resilience is burning bright. Like this story, share it with someone who needs to see that heroes are not born, they are forged in the moments when everyone else has given up. The laser pulse flickered again, a ghost in the night. Rina didn't hesitate. She didn't wait for an order that would never come. She exhaled, her breath a steady plume in the chilled air, her finger tightening on the trigger. The world narrowed to the man on the ridge, the crosshairs, and the 300 meters of whistling death between them. The crack of her rifle was lost in the cacophony, a single note in a symphony of destruction. But on the ridge, the laser vanished. A moment of confusion rippled through the enemy's coordinated fire. It was all the opening Sergeant Jax Ryder needed. Pour it on, he roared, his voice cutting through the din. West flank, suppress. The tide, for a precious second, had turned. Back at the forward operating base, the aftermath was a blur of triage, debriefs, and the hollow-eyed stares of survivors. Colonel Aris Valerius stood over a tactical map, his face a granite mask of controlled fury. He'd lost 7 soldiers, a lieutenant, and 2 vehicles. But his entire platoon wasn't a smear in the sand, and the preliminary report was why. It was illogical. A comms tech, a corporal with no combat specialization, had apparently identified and eliminated the enemy fire coordinator. "Get me Corporal Yadav," he said, his voice low and gravelly, silencing the operations tent. Major Kalen Holt, a man whose ambition was as polished as his boots, stepped forward. "Sir, with all due respect, the woman is in shock. Sergeant Ryder's report is likely exaggerated. Adrenaline. She got lucky." Valerius's eyes, chips of ice, pinned Holt to the spot. "Luck is the residue of design, Major." "I want to hear her design." Rina stood before him minutes later, still wearing her dust-caked fatigues, a smudge of grease on her cheek. She looked small, almost fragile, under the harsh lights of the command tent. She didn't offer excuses or embellishments. She just stated the facts. "I tracked the enemy's frequency hopping pattern, sir. It was too disciplined for a standard insurgent cell. I cross-referenced the signal degradation with the line-of-sight topography. The commander had to be on that ridge to maintain control. The laser confirmed it." She spoke of radio waves and signal propagation as if they were living things, as if she could see the invisible battlefield layered over the physical one. Holt scoffed audibly. "She thinks she fought a ghost in the machine." "Sir, she's a mechanic." Valerius ignored him, his gaze locked on Rina. "And the shot?" 412 meters. Uphill. Crosswind at 5 knots, she replied, her voice flat, devoid of pride. I zeroed my rifle for this atmospheric density yesterday morning. The colonel was silent for a long moment. He saw past the grease and the low rank. He saw the unwavering stillness in her eyes, a look he'd only ever seen in the most elite operators, the quiet certainty of a predator. Major Holt, Valeria said, his voice sharp as broken glass, you will arrange for Corporal Yadov's transfer to Phoenix program selection. Effective immediately. Holt's face paled. Sir? Phoenix? That's for Tier 1 candidates. She hasn't even passed basic infantry assessment. Then she'll pass it tomorrow, Valeria stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. I am not losing a weapon like this because it's in the wrong-shaped box. Dismissed. As Rena walked out, she could feel Holt's glare burning into her back, a promise of animosity she knew she would have to face. But for the first time since she'd lost everything, a flicker of purpose ignited within her, a cold, hard flame in the desolate landscape of her past. The Phoenix program was not a training course, it was a crucible designed to shatter soldiers and remold the fragments into something harder. Rena found herself on a windswept training ground, the lone woman in a sea of hardened operators, men whose muscles had muscles and whose resumes were written in blood and black ink. Major Holt had made sure her arrival was met with sneers and derision. Look what the colonel dragged in, one of them muttered. Command's new pet project. Sergeant Jax Ryder was there, reassigned as an instructor. His face was unreadable as he watched her. He owed her his life, but the rigid hierarchy of the military was a powerful force. The course is simple, he barked to the assembled candidates. You will navigate 30 clicks of hostile territory. You will be hunted. You will be broken. Your gear is what you carry. First one to the extraction point passes. Everyone else goes back to whatever rock they crawled out from under. Questions? Silence. Good. Go. Rena was instantly at a disadvantage. The bigger men set a punishing pace, their powerful legs eating up the terrain. They worked in pairs, unspoken alliances forged in past operations. She was alone. Holt's voice echoed in her mind, she's a mechanic. She focused on her strengths. She wasn't the strongest or the fastest, but she was the most observant. While the others powered through the valley, she took to the high ground, moving slower but with a clearer view. She saw the hunter patrols Holt had placed, not as threats, but as patterns. She saw their routes, their timing, the dead zones in their radio coverage. She moved through the gaps, a ghost in the system. Hours turned into a day, then a night. Her water ran low. Her muscles screamed. The men's mockery faded, replaced by the singular, driving need to endure. She found tracks from 2 other candidates, heading for a narrow canyon, a bottleneck. A perfect ambush site. Her instincts screamed. She checked her comms unit, a standard issue she had modified herself. She scanned for stray signals, the faint electronic whispers the hunter teams used. There. A low-power transmission, triangulating on the canyon. Holt wasn't just testing them, he was setting a trap. He wanted her to fail, to be captured and humiliated. A cold anger settled in her gut. She wouldn't just survive his test. She would dismantle it. Rena rerouted her path, circling wide around the canyon. The detour cost her precious time, but it kept her invisible. As dawn broke, she lay on a ridge overlooking the extraction point. She saw the finish line. And she saw the hunter team, heavily armed, waiting for the exhausted candidates to stumble into their arms. She saw something else, too. Jax Ryder, observing from a distance, his face a mask of conflict. He was part of the test, but the way he watched the ambush site, the tension in his shoulders, he didn't approve. Rena had a choice. She could sneak to the finish line, claim her victory, and leave the others to their fate. Or she could uphold the creed that had been drilled into her, leave no one behind. She raised her rifle. This time, she didn't aim for a person. She aimed for the antenna on their communications pack. The shot was audacious, almost impossible. But the bullet, guided by a will of iron, flew true. The antenna exploded in a shower of sparks. The hunters' comms went dead. Confusion erupted. Without orders, they were just men with guns. In that moment of chaos, the two candidates she had tracked stumbled out of the canyon. Seeing the disoriented hunters, they bolted for the finish line, crossing it just ahead of Rena, who had used the distraction to slip past unnoticed. She was the third to finish, not the first. Holt was waiting, a smug smile on his face. Third place, Corporal. Not quite the prodigy the colonel imagined. Two other candidates stumbled in after her. And you let these two beat you? A disappointing result. They didn't beat me, Rena said, her voice quiet but clear. I let them win. She looked past Holt, her eyes meeting Ryder's. He had seen the whole thing. He had seen her shot, seen her sacrifice her own victory for others. A flicker of profound respect dawned in his eyes. I disabled the hunter team's communications, Major, Rena continued, her voice gaining strength. I created the opening for them to escape your trap. Holt's smile vanished, replaced by a snarl of fury. You exceeded the parameters of the exercise. No, Major, a voice boomed from behind them. Colonel Valerius emerged from the command tent, his expression grim. She embodied its entire purpose. The objective isn't to be the fastest. It's to be the most effective. To think, to adapt, to lead. You see a race, Major Holt. I see a battlefield. He turned to Rena, the coldness in his eyes replaced by a rare glint of approval. You have a place in the Phoenix program, Corporal. But you've earned more than that. He paused, letting the weight of his next word settle over the entire camp. From this day forward, you have a call sign. They will call you Ghost, because you move through the enemy's world unseen, and all you leave behind is chaos. The name echoed over the training ground, a testament not to a victory in a race, but to a display of tactical genius and unwavering character. Jack's Ryder stepped forward and gave a slow, deliberate nod. The other operators, who had witnessed her impossible shot and understood her sacrifice, looked at her differently. The mockery was gone, replaced by a grudging, hard-won respect. Rena, now Ghost, had not just passed the test. She had rewritten the rules. And for Major Holt, she had just become a far more dangerous problem. The first real mission came faster than anyone expected. Intelligence located a high-value target, the architect of the ambush that had nearly wiped out Rena's former unit. He was holed up in a fortified communications bunker deep in contested territory. It was a suicide mission, a digital fortress surrounded by a physical one. Valerius briefed the newly formed team, designated Task Force Spectre. At its core were the operators from the Phoenix selection, with Jack's Ryder as team lead. And, to Holt's visible disgust, Rena, Ghost, was assigned as their signals intelligence and electronic warfare specialist. Your job is simple, Ghost, Valerius said, his eyes fixed on her. That bunker is a black hole. No signals get in or out. Their entire network is self-contained. You are to get us inside that bubble. You are the key. Without you, the door stays locked. Holt couldn't resist a final jab. Let's hope the key doesn't break, sir. The insertion was rough, a high-altitude jump into the jagged mountains. The team moved with lethal efficiency, a pack of silent predators. Rena, burdened with specialized gear, kept pace, her resolve a steel rod in her spine. Jack stayed close, no longer a skeptic but a guardian. He'd seen what she could do when the stakes were real. How you holding up, Ghost? He murmured as they paused in a rocky overhang, the wind howling around them. Just another machine to break, she replied, her fingers dancing across the screen of a portable spectrum analyzer. She was mapping the bunker's electronic signature, searching for a flaw, a crack in the code. The bunker was a masterpiece of defense. It didn't just jam signals, it consumed them, feeding off external frequencies to power its own countermeasures. A direct assault was impossible. But Rena wasn't looking at the front door. She was looking for the back alley. "They have a heat exchange system," she whispered, pointing her device at a thermal image of the distant fortress. "Subterranean vents. The system has to be networked to the bunker's core for diagnostics. It's an old protocol, probably overlooked." Jax nodded, understanding dawning. "A digital sewer pipe, exactly," she said. "If I can get close enough to one of those vents, I can inject a signal. It won't break the encryption, but it will mimic a system failure. It should force them to reboot their primary router. For about 90 seconds, the main firewall will be down. 90 seconds. An eternity and no time at all." That was their window. The plan was set. Ryder would lead the assault team to the main entrance, creating a loud, violent distraction. Rena, alone, would infiltrate the perimeter to reach the designated vent. It was a lonely, terrifying task. As she crawled through the scrub brush, the bunker looming like a concrete tombstone, a warning flared on her wrist-mounted display. An encrypted signal, originating from inside their own network. It was a short, coded burst, sent just moments before they began their approach. Her blood ran cold. It was a warning. Someone had tipped them off. It had to be Holt. The mission was a setup. He was using them as bait, hoping they would be wiped out, with her failure as the perfect scapegoat. There was no time to warn Jax. His team was already in position, ready to start the fireworks. The betrayal was a physical blow, but she shoved it down, converting the white-hot rage into icy focus. Holt wanted her to fail? She would show him what failure really looked like. She reached the vent, a grated opening humming with latent power. Her fingers flew as she jacked in her device, the code she'd written spooling onto her screen. She didn't just trigger a reboot sequence. She did something more. She uploaded a virus, a vicious little piece of malware she'd designed long ago, a ghost that would haunt the machine. "Jax," she whispered into her comms, "change of plan. Hit them now." Hard, the explosion from the main gate rocked the ground. Ryder's team was a storm of controlled violence. As the firefight erupted, Rena initiated her program. The bunker's lights flickered. Automated defenses stuttered. On her screen, she saw the system reboot begin. The 90-second clock started. But her virus was already spreading. It wasn't just rebooting the router, it was rewriting its core commands. She was seizing control. "Ghost, what did you do?" Jax yelled over the comms, the sound of gunfire roaring behind him. "The interior turrets are firing on their own men." "I gave the ghost a gun," she said, her voice grim. She began systematically turning the bunker's defenses against itself. Doors slammed shut, trapping enemy reinforcements. Fire suppression systems flooded corridors with foam. The fortress was consuming itself from within. She had not only opened the door, she had brought the whole damn house down. Her 90-second window was irrelevant now. She had created a permanent state of chaos. Ryder's team exploited the pandemonium, breaching the command center and capturing their high-value target in under 10 minutes. The mission was a resounding success, but Rena knew the fight was far from over. As they extracted, she downloaded the bunker's server logs from the last 48 hours. Somewhere in that ocean of data was the proof she needed, the single, encrypted message from a traitor that would burn Major Holt to the ground. Back at the FOB, the mood was electric. Task Force Spectre had achieved the impossible. But Rena was silent, her eyes glued to her datapad, sifting through lines of code. Colonel Valerius found her in the comms tent, away from the celebrations. "The mission report is exemplary, Ghost," he said. "You exceeded all expectations." "The mission was compromised, sir," she said without looking up, her voice tight with fury. She turned the data pad towards him. On the screen was the proof, a single data packet, sent from the FOB's command network to the bunker's hidden receiver hours before the mission launch. It was encrypted with Holt's personal signature key. An undeniable digital fingerprint. Valerius's face hardened into a mask of cold granite. The air grew heavy, the silence in the tent more profound than the noise of any battle. He didn't question her findings. He had trusted his instinct about her from the beginning, and he would trust her now. Major Holt is in the command center, claiming your success as a result of his aggressive strategic oversight, the colonel said, his voice a low growl. He is recommending himself for a commendation. Rena stood up, her small frame radiating an authority that had nothing to do with rank. With all due respect, sir, I'd like to deliver my report to him personally. The command center fell silent as Rena and Valerius entered. Major Holt was holding court, a map of the operation displayed behind him as he pointed out key tactical decisions he claimed to have made. He faltered when he saw them, a flicker of unease in his eyes. "Ah, Colonel." "And Corporal Yadav," he said, forcing a condescending smile. "Come to thank me for paving the way for your little victory?" Rena didn't say a word. She walked to the main holographic display and jacked her datapad into the system. With a few keystrokes, the tactical map vanished, replaced by lines of raw data, the single traitorous packet highlighted in red. "This is the transmission log from the enemy bunker, Major," Rena said, her voice ringing with cold clarity. "It shows they were warned of our attack, timestamped to 1843 yesterday. The transmission originated from this base." Holt began to bluster. "In wartime, signals get crossed, Corporal. It's meaningless data, it's encrypted with your personal command key, sir," she pressed on, her voice cutting through his defense like a surgeon's scalpel. "The digital signature is a one-to-one match. You told them we were coming. You sent my team, my friends, into a slaughterhouse." The color drained from Holt's face. The other officers in the room stared, their expressions shifting from admiration for Holt to shock and disgust. He was exposed, his ambition laid bare as treason. He looked to Valerius, searching for an exit, but the colonel's eyes offered no sanctuary. "Major Holt," Valerius said, his voice lethally calm. "You are relieved of command. You are under arrest for treason, for the willful endangerment of military personnel, and for conspiracy with enemy forces." Armed guards stepped forward, their faces grim. As they hauled Holt away, his polished facade finally shattered, revealing the coward beneath. He was just another man who had underestimated the quiet woman they called Sparky. In the silence that followed, Valerius turned to Rena. The entire command staff was watching. Jax Ryder and the rest of Task Force Spectre stood at the entrance, their faces filled with fierce pride. "They used to call you Ghost because you moved unseen," the colonel said, his voice resonating with respect. "But after today, that name means something else. It means you are the specter of justice that holds men like him accountable. You are the conscience of this army." He unpinned the colonel's eagle from his own collar and, in a gesture that broke a dozen regulations, pinned it on Rena's fatigues. "This is a promotion long overdue, Commander." Rena looked from the eagle on her chest to the faces of her team, her family. They were no longer mocking rookies or skeptical veterans. They were her soldiers. And for the first time, the ghosts of her past did not feel like a weight dragging her down, but like a silent honor guard standing watch. Her war was not over, but she would no longer fight it from the shadows. Her call sign was now her identity, a name that echoed over the comms not as a whisper, but as a promise of victory.